I welcome Professor Vinod Mishra once again to this event. As you know, during inaugural session, he was introduced quite well, I think. So I would like to add one more. He has a MOOC course on soft skill, and he was awarded a star performer for the MOOC course. I'm happy that he could spare some time for this event. He's here till tomorrow. And so without wasting any time, I would request you to start.
Thank you. Thank you. The pleasure is mine. The space is yours. And having listened to a foreign faculty, now let's come to the Indian way of life. The Indian classroom, isn't it? And I have titled my talk as Effective Classroom Teaching. Does that mean our classroom teaching is not effective? Because here I see we have teachers, we have would-be teachers, we have teachers in waiting, and teachers who have their career on will, isn't it? So now, why do I call it effective classroom teaching? I do remember that during the time of COVID, all of us who were in this profession, we felt very terrible. We were actually forced to go to the classroom where we had to do an online teaching. And especially in technical institutes, this was very difficult because students who are tired, they don't want to listen. Now the challenge was how to make them listen, isn't it? Because we, as teachers of English, we do not feel better unless and until our classrooms are full. We're only talking to the symbols, and you never know whether they were listening or they were not listening. The question lies there. So what I say here is this one. No, it's not working. Yes. Now, let's try to understand. I mean, all of you, majority of you are from English, and there is a very punchline, to be or not to be, that is the question. So for us as teachers, that was the time when we felt whether we are or we do not exist. So I thought, let's try to understand, do you really believe that it's a very noble profession? Most of the time, we are told that you are having the most noble profession. Now, the question is, why it is called a noble profession? Do you think students wait for your class? I mean, there have been occasions when students do not want to listen. And, as teachers, we have to make them listen. And listening is the problem, my dear friends. I'm again back to T.S. Eliot's Wasteland, where what he said in one of the sections, that was the talk between the wife and the husband, where the wife says, "My nerves are bad tonight. Come to me, stay with me." And then it continues, and then she says, "Do you hear anything? Do you remember anything?" And then again the line comes, "Yes, I do remember." What's the noise? The wind under the door. Is there something in your head? Yes, I do remember. We are in a rat's alley where the dead men lost their bones. My dear friends, if listening was problem at that time between the two people, listening has become a problem among the teachers, between the teachers and the students. But how to make them listen? And for that I say, please make use of soft skills. Your students will listen to you. Those who are either in this profession or those who are looking for joining this profession, they have to develop these soft skills. I often tell, whenever I deliver a talk on soft skills, I tell them, "Koi milayega nahi haath, यदि मिलोगे गले तपाक से, ये नए मिजाज का शहर है, जरा कायदे से चला करो. I say this culture is qaida, my dear friend. Till now, we have not been able to introduce in them this culture, this mijaz, this temper of understanding people, of empathizing with our pupils, of understanding their problems. Why don't they listen? When they are not listening, they are thinking. And at times we as teachers become very angry. Oh, they are not listening to us. Why can't we say that they are appreciating what we are saying? They are actually trying to digest what we are saying. And that is why we say, my dear friends, what are your students' expectations from you? Do you act sometimes as a counselor to your students or not? The old, dictum that says, it is only the mediocre teacher that tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires. And how does a great teacher inspire? Not only by the text that we read and that we explain, but by the way you actually discover yourself, you actually present yourself, not only verbally, but non-verbally. Not only through the space that you occupy, but through the non-space that also you occupy. Not only through the words, the gap between the two words that you leave as a teacher. Now, most of us often say, and we often hear, that soft skills is a buzzword. Everyone practices soft skills. Why don't you switch this light off so that they may have a better view? Because we are trying to reimagine. You are trying to visualize, isn't it? Now, these soft skills, actually, when we talk about soft skills, there are n number of skills. We have actually to categorize them. This has actually become an umbrella term where so many skills are there. And today is the age where not only what you are going to teach is important, but how you are going to teach is important. How you are going to live is important. How you are going to give them some takeaways that are only important, my dear friends. Now, whatever degree you earn, whatever knowledge you earn, they are your hard skills. You have crammed everything. You have got a very good CGPA. You have got a very good percentage. But do you really have those requisite skills through which you can immerse yourself as a teacher who can be considered to be effective? And for that, you require soft skills. There are several stories about soft skills, One story is about one doctor, Devi Sethi, who started once upon a time a telemedicine where he actually wanted to see the patient. But then also at the end of the day, he realized that even when there was a facility of the patient to describe what the ailment was, he actually could not understand what was the real thing. He could not express the compassion that he wanted. And my dear friends, compassion, empathy are one of the ingredients of soft skills. Now, they actually refer to so many qualities. Not only the language that you speak, I remember, most of you are familiar with that, about Kamala Das, who in one of her poems says, I speak 3 languages. The language I speak becomes mine. It's distortions even. And today we are living in a world where, I sometimes feel that in the days to come, there'll be language wars, thanks to social networking sites. Every other day, we come across certain words which are interpreted, misinterpreted, represented in different ways, my dear friends, because we don't have a control over what words we are going to use. We have actually these social networking sites at such a pace that we think whatever we say is correct, but at the end of the day, they may actually start troubling us, my dear friends. So it refers to personality traits. Personality traits. And then when we talk about personality, there are so many things which actually comprise personality. Not only your language, not only the flexibility, not only your communication skills, not only your adaptability, not only your attitude, not only your non-verbal abilities, not only how you actually present yourself before people, all are the parts of these soft skills. Your soft skills will complement your hard skills. We all learn from the same book, but is every teacher the same? Not at all. Because how the teacher utilizes his knowledge in the class, that is more important. And that is where the teacher's soft skill actually works. Soft skills actually materializes, my dear friends. Why is it important? Those many of you who are thinking of pursuing a career in teaching, the world for them has changed, my dear friends. We no longer can be an efficient teacher if we do not go for blended learning. That is the term that they are using. Sometimes or the other, we also have a fear that in the days to come, we are in non-existent. I sometimes tell the IIT Madras people that maybe after years, all my things that you have taken, I will actually become non-existent because they have already taken the copyright of all that I have said. And that's really posing a problem, my dear friends. So most of us have to be very much aware of whether we can adapt ourselves to. Today, we are not going to teach only 20 or 30 people. We actually have to address 200 people, 500 people. And that is how, there are policies where they are also trying to minimize the cost because we say that we do not have to spend too much. That is why sometimes we say, are there opportunities for us? There are opportunities, but only for skilled people. Non-skilled people cannot. There was a time when skill was used in a different way. Today, this word skill has come into academia also, and academia actually requires it the most. So it actually helps in better classroom management. What if somebody does not want to listen to you as a teacher? What would you do? Fine. You actually at times feel very frustrated. But, the control button is with you. The remote is with you. How you can suddenly, simply with the help of your non-verbal activities, can bring the classroom to your attention and you can display your own sparks. Well, actually, it is meant for mentoring, collaboration, and professional growth. There were times when they used to say, is there a counselor? Now, every teacher is a counselor. But do you really get time to talk to them? You simply come with your lectures and you impose your lecture over them. You start blabbering over them, not allowing them the space to ask. Today is the time that teaching has become interactive. It has become a participatory affair. It is learner-centered, my dear friends. We have to ensure that every learner is a part of our teaching. Every learner is a part of this teaching process. And for that, you require your soft skills. Now, your soft skills can improve your teacher-student relationship, leading to better student engagement that you create. All of us have got only 40 minutes or 45 minutes in the classroom. But you find that some teachers become very affectionate because they understand your problem. Simply by looking at your clouded faces, they can see how they can bring the rain on your faces, how they can bring smiles on your faces. This is up to us, my dear friend, unless and until we utilize our soft skills. And today, as we say, we are in a world where this is not working, my dear friend. Yes. Now, these are the varied aspects of soft skills. Now, for you, you can think, what are these skills? If some of these skills you are lacking, or you want them to be a part of it. Communication skills. Everyone is a good communicator. But does good communication only mean simply speaking? Now, this morning, I was very happy with the two anchors. Fine. They were speaking so beautifully, no? The intonation was so good. The pauses were so beautiful, no? The silences meant so much, thanks to their teachers, fine? So this is what we have to learn. All of us have to learn. You have to become an effective communicator. Every teacher, or for that matter, every teaching is a sort of conversation between you and the teacher. Every teaching is actually a dialogue between the two people. It is not one way where you actually were behind the days, unable to show your legs, your limbs, fine, your facial expressions. Today, you cannot stand at one place. Today, a teacher is a walking shadow, isn't it? We have to move. And unless and until you move, because you have to control, the control button is with you. For that movement, you do not have to go to the students, rather simply by your kinesic behavior. So that kinesic behavior, we'll come to that. Simply by your kinesic behavior, you can have a sort of control over the entire classroom and you can make your students understand. So these are some of the qualities. And for all these skills, you at least require one lecture. I'm simply touching upon them. Now, effective communication skills. Today, why many people are good communicators? Why many are not? I mean, when you talk about these 4 skills, where is the difference? I mean, people have started reading different things, not what they are required to. Most of us, most of our students, they actually waste their times reading 5 point someone 2020. Tell them to read, fine. Somerset Maugham, they don't have the time. They don't have the patience. Tell them to read some great novelist, they cannot sustain their interest in it. They want something which is called masala, isn't it? My dear friend, this masala doesn't have that literary flavor. Fine. It's actually ready-made. Where, how? Because, the basic aim of literature teaching is to embellish your language also. And that is possible only when you read the classics. So we don't have the time for reading. What do you speak? You do not speak, you chat, isn't it? You do not write. You simply, what do? You simply scribble a few things, and that also not in language, but in certain overt and covert symbols, isn't it? Sometimes these smiley icons or these weeping icons actually make us misunderstand what the communicator wants to say. Can we really be considered to be a good communicator then? No. And when it comes to listening, my dear friend, nobody listens. They simply hear. All hearing cannot be listening, isn't it? Many of us only hear in the class, but we do not listen, because listening is a perceptive act. Unless and until we listen very patiently with every word, where we can try to understand the word, unless and until we do that, that is not listening. We hear a lot, but we do not listen, isn't it? And listening is the problem in the classrooms nowadays, because there are several deviations also. No? When a student is in the classroom, he cannot be away from his cell phone. The cell phone is his new world. Fine. So as a teacher, how can you control that? Does every teacher have the caliber and the control and also the patience and the courage to say, by the time I start, can you really give your cell phones a little rest? Fine. Because my dear friend, with the cell phone with them, they are in several worlds at the same time. And with several worlds, you cannot concentrate on listening. That is why there's a problem, my dear friends. So let us try. And for us also, sometimes I tell my students even, what if you cannot? What if you live without a mobile for some time? Will the sky fall or the earth crumble so that again there may be a Sita? No, my dear friends. I mean, try to understand, for all of us, even the adult world, let us try to keep ourselves from our cell phones for some time. It's good for health, it's good for your psyche, it's good for your mind as well. Now, when we say listening, 60 to 70% time is spent in listening. But what do we listen? Do we really listen what really is important? No. You listen something, TikTok, isn't it? That is not listening, my dear friends. If you spend the time listening to a TED Talk, that can be considered to be a good listening. If you can spare that time, that's good. Again, hearing is only a physical activity, fine? And listening is a mental one. That is why we say listen with a perception. When you listen, you try to understand. Recently, I was listening to a lecture by somebody who said that why April is the cruelest month. It says that April was good. Why it says that April is the cruelest month. Now you see my difference. When do we really have the patience to think why it is so? Because the next line says, breeding lilacs out of the dead, isn't it? So the question is, we need to understand why that word might have been written, my dear friends. If we can have that, if we can spend that time, whatever we read, if we can think over, mull over for some time, then perhaps we'll get the response as to why listening plays a very dominant role. Hearing does not require any effort, while listening does. This is perceptive listening, which Nathan says it's a conscious cognitive effort. Conscious and cognitive. Listen to every word. I always tell my students that during the interview process, when they ask you the question, and if you cannot listen to the entire sentence, perhaps you will jump to answer, and that could mar your fortunes by difference. So please let us try to listen properly so that we can answer properly. So it is actually a hearing reinforced by other senses and leading to understanding, when perceptive listening is inspired by a sincere desire to understand. No? Many of the students of literature, they have been reading how structures also have meaning. It is not that only the text has got the meaning. There are meanings also beyond the text. That is why you are all pursuing your research. And that is where your critical theories come to your help, my dear friend. So like that, when you listen, think of why this word might have been there. And if you do not pay attention to that, perhaps your listening doesn't give you the proper result. Now see, we talk about communication. Is it communication skills or communication kills? That you have to think, my dear friends. In order to be an effective communicator, in order to be an effective teacher, what you'll have to do, now look at this. This is actually about a teacher who joined recently, and he thought that in the very first class, I will mesmerize all my students with the pomposity of words. And then, so can their students listen if he writes like this, if he speaks like this? Can you really understand the meaning of it? Fine. Every conscious person will have to spend at least 20 to 30 minutes unless and until he has got a dictionary ready with him to understand this. So this is not the proper communication, my dear friend. In order to have proper communication, you speak in the same way that your readers, that your listeners can understand. Otherwise, he could have satisfied himself simply by saying that talk simply, naturally, and above all, don't use big words. But sometimes, we are all human beings. We believe that if we use very difficult words, people will be very happy. No, my dear friends. What are the uses of those words which people cannot understand? It is always better to use simple words in order to make them understand. Speaking. There was a time when the teachers used to go to the classroom with their notes. Now, for many of you who are students, who would be going to give their presentations, what they would do? They would actually prepare a lot. But what will happen? When you go to the spot, you forget everything, isn't it? Why? Because you believed, let me memorize everything. Can you really memorize the pauses? Can you really memorize the intonation? Can you really memorize the silence where two words can welcome silence? We cannot. Fine. So the various modes of speaking are, first is a manuscript reading. You lose your audience. If I simply bring a manuscript and start reading, what will happen? I will lose my crowd. I will lose my student. It's better because everyone, that is why there is the technique of flip classroom. Many of you are aware of it. We provide you the lessons beforehand. And when the classroom when the classroom starts, what we want is interaction. That is teaching. Because already there's a background in your mind, and then we can play our part well, and the innings can go well, my dear friends. But what happens? Most of the time, because we're very enthusiastic, we are going very excited. The first lecture, I shall try to create a sort of impression that nobody will forget. No, my dear friends. Go with such a sort of intention that people can wait for another class as well. And for that, please see impromptu. All of you, I request all of you to develop within you a speaking ability that is impromptu. You never know when you are called to speak. I was listening to one of my students who told me once that, sir, I never thought that this was my first day, and I never thought that they will call me to speak. But suddenly it so happened. He was a new entrant. He had joined the organization and he was called. Now, such situations may come to us as well. This impromptu speaking, speaking without any preparation. I mean, this is dangerous, no doubt. But it actually gives a lot of rewards also. Because all of us are in the same situation. If you do not get the time beforehand, what you're going to speak, you actually think of what you know. You actually make use of your own memory. You actually make use of your own skill, your own talent, your own control over words and how you can speak. That is why it's better, it's beautiful. But of course, nowadays we have all the facilities and we go for the last one, that is extemporaneous. No, every now and then. I always tell people that when you tell me to come with the slides, what happens is I myself am slided by and the slides rule the roost, isn't it? So the question is, if somebody brings these slides, and nowadays that is the fashion, in most of the technical courses, what happens is, I mean, these slides are there, but the teacher does not get the proper time to explain each and everything. If you really want to give an extemporaneous talk, please see to it that every point that you have mentioned is explained, and that requires effective idea of control, that actually requires effective way of teaching. For that, you have to practice a lot, my dear friends. Now, there's a question. How many of you, when you are asked to speak, feel nervous? Please raise your hands. Okay. You feel nervous. There's a term for that. We call that glossophobia. So when you are to speak before strangers, all of us feel nervous. And you can see the nervousness on the faces of the people, on their limbs. But I always say, nervousness is good. A little bit of nervousness actually gives you so much of energy that people do not understand. I mean, your audience will not understand that you are nervous because you only can feel. And nowadays, you have the days before, which actually hides all your nervousness. So for you, what you can do is, when nervousness is there, please see that you let not them feel. How can you do that? How can you control that? You can simply refer back to what you have said. No? Review what you have said earlier, and by the time you come to the real point, things come to you ready-made, isn't it? Because it is only you who have already prepared, my dear friend. And I always say, when you feel nervous, think of a good situation, good event in your life. Let it not be on your face. I say, खुशफहमियों में भी जीना एक कला है, कौन कहता है presentation बला है. Isn't it? So think of something good, a good event. You are looking at a rose. You actually had a beautiful experience sometimes somewhere, fine. And then suddenly this will simply fade away and you will be back to what you are going to tell. So this is one of the ingredients of soft skills. So when you go to a strange situation or a strange event and you feel that something bad will happen, please let that not overpower you. And for that, nowadays, technology, we are all slave to technology. We have been enslaved rather, isn't it? So technology is a good help. But I always say, technology not only facilitates, but it also irritates. Fine. How does it irritate? Sometimes you come with your pen drive and suddenly the pen drive doesn't work. What will happen? No, oh God, the sky will fall. Fine. So what should we do? We should always ensure that we arrive well before time to the classroom event. Fine. Check the gadgets, whether they are working or not. Fine. Sometimes it so happens that you go to a foreign country and you have your all presentations ready, but there it is not opening. There's no compatibility, isn't it? So please keep something in your mail also. There are several facilities also available. And moreover, your cell phones, through which you actually can shield all situations, my dear friends. So arrive well in time, speak with listeners. For somebody who is an obvious speaker, we should always tell them that when you come, don't start giving your verbal fireworks because you have already memorized. Don't start with verbal fibers. Stand. Look at them. Create a sort of credibility and look from one corner of the crowd to the other. And then you have full control over them. Fine. Start with a smile, but don't smile and be a villain, isn't it? Fine. You have to smile. The smile have to be full of decorum, isn't it? And when you smile, the smile should be very natural and it should ensure that you are here with your own intention. You are not a forced speaker. Fine. Because, listeners are very careful. They are watching every act of yours. Control your body language, my dear friend. Look at the audience. I have seen many people, even during the interviews, during several recruitment committees, Professor Rijwan will agree with me, when they come, they are not able to speak. They start looking sideways of the roof, or they want, oh God, when should I go out? Fine. My dear friends, you have all the capacities with you. Stand, watch, wait for the questions. Nothing will happen. Everything will be in order. Wait for your turn. It will come and really change your fortune, my dear friends. Now, how to speak? Sometimes people say, you have to speak. Many people at times say that unless you give me a topic beforehand, how can I speak? My dear friends, you cannot become a speaker just in one day. During your student life, even keep collecting the ideas. You're reading newspapers, you are every now and then on social networking sites. So whenever any topic comes to you, please just take some moment and try to visualize it in such a manner that at least you can speak something, isn't it? And ideas have always ruled mankind. But what if you have ideas? No? If you don't have ideas, sometimes what will happen is you don't have any idea. My dear friends, I always say, there are speakers before me. Let me take one thread out of what they have spoken and let me elaborate on them. Ideas have always ruled mankind, but ideas have to be articulated. This morning was Anas was speaking. I was so delighted. I was so happy the way he had a control over that, isn't it? We want people to be a speaker like him, isn't it? So how you can maintain that poise, that balance, the tonal variations, so that every speaker will find you before themselves. And that actually requires practice, my dear friends. Practice. So before any speaking event, please do practice. There are several ways of practicing. Many people simply remember. Many people do not want to share. If I share my ideas with others, they will actually steal my thoughts. No, please call them, speak before them, seek their feedbacks, and cast on their feedback. What they say. How does my body look like? Am I aware of my bodily movements? Do my eyes behave well? Do my lips really twitter, or are they simply sucked silently, my dear friend? All these have to be practiced. Silence and pauses. Now see, non-verbal. What is non-verbal? There was a time when people said that there was no need to dress yourself as if you are going to a party. Today it is very important. Why are you going? Why are you going to speak? What is the occasion? Today, even the color of your dress matters a lot. The structure of your shoes also matter a lot. And the tie that you wear, they also matter a lot. You actually have to make a lot of preparation before you go to give a public show. And that is what we call non-verbal communication, because through this, at least half the battle is won. Freud has rightly said, he says that he that has eyes to see and ears to hear can convince that no mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, chatting with his fingertips, betrayal seems to ooze out of him at every pore. However hard you try, my dear friends, the emotions are written well over your face. You cannot hide them. If you want to tell them that you're not nervous, but still your nervousness is written on your face, my dear friends. For that, you need to have some practice. Everyone has got a mirror, isn't it? So please stand before the mirror for some time before you go to deliver a talk and look at the mirror. Mirror will never tell you a lie. No? Mirror will give you an impression when you are rehearsing. Rehearse your talk before the mirror. Fine. Do it as many times as you can, because what you are going to deliver, people see only that. They do not see what is there in the background. Fine. If you can do that, you can do better, my dear friends. And that will tell you where are you. Nowadays, you have the cell phones. Even when somebody is not listening to you, not watching you, please get your voice, get your presentation, get your body language recorded, look at it critically, analyze it, show it with your teacher, discuss it with your teacher, and then you can find out how, if I could change this behavior of mine, I could become better, I could become welcome, I could be acceptable as a speaker, my dear friends. These are the different non-verbals, I usually deliver lots of lectures on non-verbals. You can listen to my lectures on YouTube, on NPTL. Fine. This kinesics is body language. Fine. Proxemics, the space. This was actually our reserved space earlier. We used to be here. Now this space is intimidated. This is not the space now. So we come out of space. How much space do you make use of? Should, as a speaker, should a speaker walk? Should a speaker run? Should a speaker be static? Fine. So you have to ensure that through your bodily movements also your lecture moves. That is where your soft skill will work as an effective teacher, my dear friends. And then comes haptics. Fine. How close or how distant I am. There is a word, culturally empowering. This space, my dear friends, is very detrimental in different cultures. We shall talk about them in detail when we take up this aspect tomorrow. In every culture, space symbolizes meaning. You cannot interfere with the space. All of us have got certain bubbles around us. We want. If somebody sits here every day, if the other day some other person sits here, he or she feels threatened, my dear friends, isn't it? That's the beauty of maintenance of space. You actually feel that this space is yours, and space interference is not considered good in communication. So we have to see that we maintain this space not only through the words, but also the physical space. That is very important. And in cultures, this space embodies a lot of meaning, my dear friends. In many cultures, you will find that if two people are very closely moving with each other, then that can be considered to be very controversial, my dear friends. So we have to, that is why we say culturally empowering. So we have, as teachers, because our crowd is now multilingual, multicultural, we have to think about that. This morning, I told you about the incident of a Japanese girl who did not say anything, but simply went on her way. We, the fools, could not understand that she wanted us to follow so that she could show us where was our hotel. Because in their culture, it was not wise to open one's teeth. One of the dolls in Japan was banned because they had that had a toothy smile. And opening or smiling publicly is considered impious in Japanese culture. Fine. The way we are talking to each other, in certain relative terms also, the mother-in-law and the son-in-law never see each other face to face. In certain cultures, we as Indians, we also know there are different cultural practices in different states, in different languages, in different cultures. We have to be conscious of all that. If we are oblivious to all that, perhaps we cannot become an effective speaker, an effective teacher. Paralanguage. I mean, I should give 90 out of 100 to Anas for his paralanguage this morning. What is this paralanguage? Paralanguage is something other than language. The throw, the flow, the gap, fine. The tonal variations. These are paralanguage, fine. And then what is the speed? How many words per minute? Fine. Where do we need to stop? How long are the pauses? How long the silences? No? In some of my lectures, I have said that our silence conceals, our silence reveals. Our silence voices, our silence rejoices. Silence is meaningful, my dear friends. Silence ignites meaning. Silence also says or displays. Oh, sorry. Now see, this is some of the non-verbal behavior you can find. And you can think of yourself whether you do this or not. But when you do that, what do you really mean? What do you really mean? What sort of meaning is being conveyed when you do that? I leave all these slides for you to go through so that you can go through on all these slides very carefully, deftly. Fine? Anyway, let's move. I hope I am not imposing my views on you. It's Gyan. Right from the morning, a lot of Gyan Ganga has flowed. And I can understand, I can feel empathetic as a soft skills trainer. Fine. Empathy is the word that all of us have to develop. Anyway. Now, this is what we mean by silence and pauses. There's a very good line by Mark Twain, fine, where he says, no language was as effective as a rightly timed pause. If a speaker simply blabbers continuously like 180 or 200 words per minute, then it will be very difficult for the listeners to understand and interpret. So we have to give some pauses at points so that our pauses can give meanings. There was a movie, I'm forgetting the name of the movie, where I think which actor it was who said, तुम्हारे चेहरे की झुर्रियों में मेरे जीवन का सारांश छिपा है. I mean, the way he said, isn't it, that actually gave meaning. Fine. So this is how, and you know, you are all fans of Big B. The way he gives a pause, no, when he says, lock kar diya jaye, you know, all of us are frightened. And suddenly he says, aur aapka uttar sahi hai. Actually, this is called release, no? So sometimes he puts us in a suspended animation and then he releases, no, the sours, and we all become very happy. That's actually the power of speech, my dear friends. So I consider Big B to a great speaker. Fine. I consider Nasiruddin Shah to be a great speaker. The way they actually make use of the delivery. We have to try. Even though I said in the morning that as a teacher, you have to be an actor. So when I say actor, I mean how you act your words, how you enact your words. That's important. That is why your students will wait for you, my dear friends. This is about silence. Just a minute. Writing. Professor Lindbergh might be saying how research writings, today there's a problem which is before all of us, especially before the research scholars, to get published in Scopus Index journals, isn't it? We send our papers and the next morning my student comes with a pulled face. Sir, one more rejection. I say, no problem. You actually have to get habituated to those rejections because these rejections are subjections. At least they read your paper. They gave you the comments. My dear friends, we do not practice writing, you know, and Bacon will say, writing makes an exact man. Fine. Do we really practice writing? You don't write, isn't it? You simply word process. Gone are the days when somebody would be having very beautiful handwriting, petite, isn't it? Today, the word process, so the world of handwriting has got a great loss. Fine. We do not have the time to sit because we are always obsessed with our cell phones and think the world might have come to a halt. Nothing will happen, my dear friends. Please spend some time for writing. Write whatever you have read, please write. Writing actually requires conscious efforts. Write, rewrite, review, revise, edit, discuss with your teacher, send to the journal, look at the documentation styles of the journal, quote the journal to where you are sending and see what is the frequency, and then wait for your turn. Get ready for rejection. Fine? Because this finally will end in a sort of acceptance. In our institute, you cannot submit your thesis unless and until you have got at least 2 Scopus papers, and that also Q1. They have a very tough time. Fine? In many organizations, in many institutes and universities, they say UGC care. But again, you understand the state of affairs of the UGC care. Now that has also been under scrutiny and all. But then that does not, or that should not, disappoint us not to write. We need to write. Keep writing. And if you write every day, every lecture that you listen to, write it in your own words. One day you'll find you develop a sort of passion for writing. Fine? Out of you only Miltons can come. Out of you only Blakes can come. Out of you only, Maya Angelos will come. Isn't it? Why not practice writing, my dear friends? These are the 7 C's. I was talking about how when we obtuse our thoughts with words, it doesn't mean that you do not know good words. You know words, but use words only when they are required. For effective writing, there's a course of mine on effective writing on NPTEL. If you get some time, please go through that. Fine. So there I have said that when you are writing a research paper or a report or anything, please ensure that it actually has got a sort of fog index, which was given by Robert Gummidge. Fine. Where he says that your words should be familiar for the readers. No one would like to have a dictionary every now and then with them to understand and interpret the essence of what you have written. So these are the 7 C's most of you might be knowing. Now comes attitude. I don't say that this is important only for a teacher. This is important for all human beings. We are actually suffering from 5 emotional cancers. And these emotional cancers are regarding the attitude, my dear friends. If we can overcome these, what are these? Complaining, comparing, contending, competing, and criticizing. Fine. We criticize. Is there a constructive criticism? Fine. Many of us often get disappointed with criticism. But I always say, निंदक नियरे राखिए आंगन कुटी छबाए बिन पानी बिन साबुना निर्मल करत सहाय. Let me have a critique. But when somebody criticizes, think over it. What was it that he or she criticized? Can I look into? If you can do that, fine, you will emerge as a good writer, as a good human being. So not only at the workplace, this goes well. The blame game, we call that blame game. He did that, she did that, it was done by that. No, my dear friends, if you're in an organization or an institute, own up. Please belong to the institute. Belong to your group of friends. Belong to your team. Think of the ways how you can improvise, how you can improve, how you can take something out of it so that you can turn the negatives into positives, my dear friends. Adaptability. You need to adapt yourself to the situation. Never say, I can't do this. Fine. This is also part of your soft skills. Most of the time people say, no, I cannot read those 80 pages. I cannot write that. The computer is not working. The network is down. Fine. But you have a good hand. You can write also. Adaptability. Adapt yourself. And today, when we say culturally empowering, there also you need to adapt yourself to the technology. how many of us bring technology to the classroom? I may not be a master. Most of us may not be an expert of that area. But if something good I have come across, I must bring that to my classroom. And, if we bring that the day after, I think I will inspire my students also to make use of them. Technology should be used, but please don't get enslaved by it. It actually requires a lot of efforts. How you can properly use technology to its advantage. We must have a can-do attitude. I mean, disappointments come in everyone's life, but the real test of a person is in disappointment. The real test of a personality is when you work at odds against things. There the real personality emerges. If you simply are bowed down, if you simply get yourself derailed, you are not a good personality. By personality, we do not mean a heavy built structure, but personality, we mean a positive mindset. Fine? The can-do attitude. If you can have that, you can improve yourself as a good teacher. In most of the institutes, they have an appraisal system. And nowadays, with this NEP, we also have introduced an appraisal system. Have you ever tried to look at your own appraisal? Right? Have you been ever able to introspect what is there lacking in me? If you can do that, this year, if I could publish only one paper, maybe because it was my fault. So please make an appraisal of yourself also, so that in the days to come, you can also do better. Look at people who are becoming prosperous. Why are they becoming so? Because they have always been with the flow, not against the flow. And teamwork. As human beings, most of us are divided. Our aims are divided. We never work in teams. Fine. Somebody is a good teacher, we start criticizing him. Somebody does not have that much of capacity. My dear friends, in the days to come, you have to work in a team. And team management is very difficult. Formation of the team is itself difficult. How can you form a good team? Not everyone can be a good team player, but then we can develop. Those who have seen the days of Saurav Ganguly. When Saurav Ganguly had come to batting side of India, he was not a good player. Fine. And he had got a lot of difficulties. But there was a time when everyone started looking for Ganguly. How was it? How did this happen? How did he make himself so accessible? It was actually the team. And whenever he won, he said, it is the team spirit. It is not me. It is actually the team that has done wonders. So try to develop a good team. And for a good team, you actually have to come through these stages, my dear friends. What are these stages? Forming. When you start forming a team, again, another step will come, storming. Fine. So lots of ideas are there. Everyone will give you ideas, but then you feel that these ideas crisscross. So stormy-like situation will be there. But out of that will come norming. Fine. After having listened to everyone's views, then you finally decide. A normalization process is there. And finally, the last is adjourning. If it cannot be done now, we can take it later. So these are the 5 stages of team formation. Build a good team. A researcher's team, a teacher's team, fine, a speaker's team. Nowadays, there is a lot of emphasis on presentations by 2 people. And there also is a philosophy. The philosophy is that if one person is not that great, the other person can compensate. Likewise, in a team presentation, what we do is everyone gets his or her equal share, and then the presentation becomes so beautiful. This morning, you could see both the anchors were working in such a good consonance that everything appeared so smooth, so beautiful, so flowing, as if there was a sort of spontaneity of words. There's a sort of rhythm, and that everyone might have liked it, my dear friend. So there lies the team spirit. There lies how you can work in pairs, in groups. And that's important, my dear friends. I mean, as teachers, we should not be that majorly. At least good things should be appreciated, isn't it? You know, this is human psychology. If somebody is appreciated, we feel depreciated. Fine. We actually should feel that why can't I also do? Isn't it? That's good way, isn't it? Why can't I learn? Fine. If that sort of sentiment is there within us, we emerge as good leaders. Today, what is leadership? Leadership is also part of soft skills. Who is a good leader? Why this gentleman is having the third gyan? Fine. This actually is reflective of his leadership, how he has got the management, how he has got to know people, how he has got to know people of those areas, how he has been able to disseminate, and how he has been able to bring forward all these Augustus gathering. And finally, the so is here. This is leadership, my dear friends. We are actually to learn by our experience, my dear friends. There will be conflicts, no doubt, but there's a resolution also. Good things may not come without any conflict. Fine. Conflict should always be welcome. Conflict of ideas, conflict of, interests, conflict of, two people's opinions. But, here, what is being said by Thomas Kilman on conflict is competing, collaborating, compromising, avoiding, accommodating, cooperatives. But finally, assertiveness. A good leader will listen to everything. Fine. That is why I say, please listen, listen, listen. Fine. Unless and until you listen, you cannot be a good actor, a good leader, a good teacher. Listen, because you never know from your listening what new thing may come. So please develop the habit of listening. If you really want to be a good speaker, you have to be a good listener, my dear friends. Now, this is conflict resolution. I'll skip that. This is about conflict management. Conflict, sometimes because of cognition, something I don't know, something my friend knows. So naturally, there'll be a conflict. But I should try always to learn from my friend. What is this? How can I know it? Fine. So if we have that conscious effort, maybe we'll know better. And then sometimes it actually becomes very emotional, affective. No, we actually get emotional. My dear friends, emotion is good, but you must have a sort of emotional intelligence as a soft skills person. How you can become an emotionally intelligent person is knowing about everyone, respecting everyone. Maybe that in a team, not everyone is a good worker, not everyone is a good writer, not everyone is a good initiator, but everyone has got some talent or the other. Please try to understand that. When you understand that, perhaps you'll emerge as a good leader, my dear friends. This is a 6 hats technique. Many of you might be familiar with it. For that we say whenever we are in a crisis, we must actually utilize this 6 thinking hats technique. And in this, everyone wears a cap, and every cap symbolizes. Fine. Every cap symbolizes. Sometimes when you wear red hat, fine. What you do? You actually patronize emotion. Black, negative, fine. Yellow, having a positive mindset. Green hat, fine. Generating ideas. And blue hat, organizing and controlling the thought process. So Eduardo de Bono was a great psychologist, and he had said that whenever in the midst of crisis, you actually need to emerge as a sort of creative person, and for that, you may make use of the 6 hats technique. This is emotional intelligence. We already have talked about it. This is positive thinking. There is one term that I actually need to, before we give this lecture a halt and we discuss with you, Johari window. This Johari window is very powerful. All of us, actually, this Johari window, there were 2 people, 2 American, and one was Joe, Harry, and the another was Joe and the Harry. And out of them, they actually made this Johari windows technique. So they have got 4 quadrants open when you know everything, fine, everything about you. And there is another that is blind. There is another which is hidden, something that you may not know about yourself, others know. Something that you know, others do not know. Fine. And in organizations, it so happens, we sometimes become so oblivious to, we think that I am, what I know is the best. People sometimes do not tell you out of their gentility. But no, sometimes if there's a well-wisher can tell you that if you can improve on that. I remember this context, a story where there was a singer who actually used to have a different sort of teeth. And whenever she used to sing, she actually used to hide those teeth. She's a good singer. Then one music director once told her, why do you always try to hide your teeth? Please don't hide your teeth. And that will actually make you something different. And from that day onwards, she started showing her teeth and she became a celebrity as a singer. My dear friends, don't you know that many of the singers, even in our country, even though they have a cracked voice, they have made a mark. Many of the heroines who have got a very stifled voice, Rani Mukherjee, for example, no? You see how she had made use of that. There have been singers also who have utilized that. So the main thing is, even if you have something wrong with your voice, you can improvise it. No, there are some people who are not able to speak properly. There's a blob always. If they can practice speaking at a slower speed, they can actually become a better speaker by different. There is a remedy to everything. You should not always think that there is nothing which is irremediable. There is a remedy to everything. Find out that if you are going to make yourself a good soft skills learner, and that is your success, my dear friends. Time management. Okay, this is about time management. All of us have got only 24 hours. How you manage that is, no, some people often think that how can he do like that? Fine. Everyone has got a limited time. It is up to you how you manage the time that we ignored today, like in Richard II by Shakespeare. Look at these lines. I wasted time and now doth time waste me, for now hath time made me his numbering clock. Fine. So please make use of time. And for students, for PG students, for PhD students, this is the time. Don't waste your time like anything. Please make it useful by going for good things, by reading good things, and that only can make you a good person and a good orator. This is persuasion. Fine. There are 7 mantras of persuasion. You can find that, because whatever you speak, they're all persuasive in nature. This lecture that I'm delivering, this is also persuasive. I'm actually trying to impose my views, but I'm trying to impose my views in a very subtle manner, isn't it? So as a teacher, all of you have to become that. Sometimes, in one of the congregations, somebody asked me that, what at the end of my lecture, if I do not know the answer to a particular question, what should I do? I mean, if you're a good teacher, you will say, oh, that's only a little time. Can we really discuss it during the tea? Fine. You actually have a stolen time for that. So as a teacher, you must know how you can play your part well. But I do understand that all of us, when we come prepared for the talk, we know what we have to say. We anticipate questions before we go, isn't it? And that is really the power of success. Persuasion is not manipulation, my dear friends. Fine. You cannot manipulate always. You cannot befool a person every now and then. So persuasion is to convince people in a very constructive manner. Make use of your imagination and anticipation and maintain positivity throughout. This I leave for tomorrow, because tomorrow we have a lecture on cross-cultural. But remember the fact that all of us have to communicate across culture. Fine. So before I come to show you the final slide, yes. This is what A. Mahadev Iyer says. Teaching has to be a dialogue and not a monologue. Today, you have to empower, fine, yourself culturally. It is not a monologue, it is a dialogue. Fine? Give room to them also. Leave space for them. Ask them questions. Interact with them. Don't impose them, my dear friends. And then they should mean we should have patience towards questions, no matter how silly they are. Those who are successful in these respects alone can become good teacher at this stage. So all of us are striving to become effective teachers in the days to come. And for that, you need to utilize your soft skills. And you have by now understood what are the different aspects, what are the different elements of soft skills. Please try to practice those soft skills, bring them into your teaching methodologies, and make your classroom very positive. Our classroom will be positive, considerate, learning environment that fosters academic excellence and respect for others. All students will strive to do their best, both academically and behaviorally. Today, the world has become beautiful only because of soft skills. The world has become authentic only because whatever we want to do not only with our mind, but with our heart also, because mind and heart do not collide, they combine, they actually align, they blend in order to make ourselves a better teacher. Thank you very much. I will come to the last one. Yes. But before I end, can you make it bigger? Can you read it? This is actually the letter Lincoln wrote to his son's headmaster. And therein lies a lot of thought as to how a child, as to how a student can develop. I'll read it for you. He will have to learn, I know that all men are not just all men are not true, but teach him also that for every scoundrel there is a hero. Fine. Teach him that for every enemy there is a friend. It will take time, I know, but teach him if you can that a dollar earned is of far more value than found. Teach him to learn to lose and also to enjoy winning. Steer him away from ennui if you can. Teach him the secret of quiet laughter. Let him learn early that the bullies are the easiest to lick. Teach him, if you can, the wonder of a book, but also give him quiet time to ponder the eternal mystery of birds in the sky, bees in the sun, and flowers on a green hillside in school. Teach him it is far more honorable to fail than to cheat. Teach him to have faith in his own ideas, even if everyone tells him they are wrong. Teach him to be gentle with gentle people and tough with the tough. Teach him to scoff at cynics and to beware of too much sweetness. Teach him to sell his brawn and brain to the highest bidders, but never to put a price tag on his heart and soul. Teach him to close his ears to a howling mob and to stand and fight if he thinks he's right. Treat him gently, but do not coddle him, because only the test of fire makes fine steel. Let him have the courage to be impatient. Let him have the patience to be brave. Teach him always to have sublime faith in himself, because then he will always have sublime faith in mankind. This is a big order, but see what you can do. He's such a fine fellow, my son. Fine? So these are the last takeaways. Teachers' role in shaping students. We have to be as facilitators, as trainers, and also as counselors. Thank you very much. I open the floor for questions, and then we have provided them. Yes, tutorial sheet has been provided to you. I would like you to think over and formulate your answer for that. And if there is any query, I here stand at your disposal. Can I have one more water? Thank you. आइए रिजवान साहब.
So you have, I've shared it on your group. You can go through that, 2 pages. Pretty comprehensive discussion. Now, this is a tutorial class based on what we discussed through PPT. Okay. So you can ask questions.
You can even answer. I'll be happy. हाँ एक कार्ड कॉपी होगी मेरे पास. हाँ, so that I may have a look. अच्छा नहीं हार्ड है मेरे पास.
On the first page, there are some questions. You can speak your mind, whatever. Okay.
Should I read the questions? The first is, which is the most essential soft skills for teachers? Communication, adaptability, empathy.
Your response. You can start with teachers.
Yes, please. You need a mic. Please give. I have the mic with myself. Pass it on to whosoever want to answer. Empathy. That's great. Okay. Why do you feel like that?
It's also problem if you do not feel their problems. That's why.
Okay. Is adaptability not important?
But one has to be offered for that. And the adaptability is also very much important.
Okay. On a scale of 5, where do you rate effective communication skills as an important ingredient of softer skills for a teacher? On a scale of 5, how do you rate effective communication skills as a softer skills for teachers? That's great. Thank you. Sit down. Now, another question that I want you people to answer is, what are the most common communication challenges teachers face in the classroom?
It's a very relevant question. Meeting the needs of the students. Yeah.
Okay.
when the student have mobile phone for her, I think it becomes more challenging that time because it always disturbs the students and it becomes difficult for teacher to get his or her attention back.
Okay.
Like English is their not mother tongue, but they have to speak in English. So how could we like convey our ideas effectively, and how can they understand what we want to say?
Okay. So the answer to your question is that NEP has started, NEP says that we also should, from time to time, start teaching in mother tongue, isn't it? So a teacher today also has to be multilingual. But if we simply rely on one language, that can be a difficulty because in certain areas, suppose we are teaching in a Tamil classroom and students rely only on Tamil, then what will happen? What will happen to our English teaching? Fine. Any answer? Yes, please. No, we have at times this insistence on one language, on one local language, and we are an English teacher. So how will you be able to accommodate or control over that because your main motto is teaching English?
Whenever there is a need,
Right.
try on the other time or whatever language, local language.
Learner-centric approach. So there's a new trend of trans-languaging.
Trans-languaging, right, right. And this AI will also come to your help, isn't it? Anyway, there's another question. How can teachers use emotional intelligence to handle difficult classroom situations? Emotional intelligence, EQ.
People from back. Yeah.
Please.
Teacher, you will be able to. A teacher with a higher EQ will be able to understand non-verbal feedback from students in a better manner, and this way communication gaps can be bridged.
Okay, can you give an example? That's a good answer.
Or since I studied in Kendra Vidyalaya Central Schools, when students are transferred from one school to others, they become very shy and they face difficulties adapting to a different environment and in a different city. So they often do not communicate that they are facing problems in such subjects or such languages or such cultures. So if a teacher can understand by looking at their faces or noticing that these particular students are not responding in classes, and maybe they can ask them to come to their chambers or help them individually, that can help those learners and they can adapt in a better way.
Right. But there again, yes.
Relating with our own experience also helps a lot. I can give personal example of myself. I come from Bihar, and when I came to Delhi to study back in 2004, my language was an issue actually. The way I pronounced word selection was a little bit different the way it was pronounced and the word selection was made in Delhi. So I was hesitant. I was a teenager, but I was hesitant even then. I found my teachers didn't understand my problem.
Right.
As a result, they were at times very harsh. And I started teaching in a school here in Aligarh in 2009. And I had some students who had come from a different place. There was a student I remember now who came from Saudi Arabia, actually. He was also going through the same problem I was going through. And I just related my situation, and I personally talked to that student, and that student got so connected with me that, like, always, whenever he had any issues with any other subject as well, he would come to me. I kind of played a role, and I was sort of emotional translator between him and other teachers too, which was appreciated by teachers and that student as well. So this has helped me not only here, but across the world. And I think when we correlate the things well, it helps a lot. And we should never ever forget our experience and apply.
Right. Peer learning. Fine? Yes. Now, another question we have. How can a teacher improve his or her non-verbal communication skills? You're aware of non-verbal communication skills? Yes. How can we improve that? Lot of practice.
Sensitive.
Yes.
Because I think a very sensitive example. And like in India, we can use any fingers very freely.
Right.
But initially, when I went to the US, I had a very bad habit of using my finger. And I saw that whenever I, by mistake, used this finger to point something out there on the screen, people made their model. There was certain, there was some shrugging, something going on.
Right.
I realized that there is something wrong that I actually do not know. So as a result, I talked to my colleagues and they told me it's a very sensitive thing over here, be careful. And thereon, like I made a change in my personality, my non-verbal communication, fixed it.
Okay. Now, another question that I have is, do you think asking questions in and between is a good way of interacting with the students? Sometimes it helps. What if you do not get the answer from the students? What should we do when students do not respond? Yes, please. So in that case, as teachers, we are to answer. Not every question will be answered by them. You ask the question, wait for some time. If the answer doesn't come, provide the answer. Fine? But don't disappoint them. Don't discourage them. Okay. Why is positive reinforcement more effective than punishment? The thought-provoking question. Why is positive reinforcement more effective than punishment? Okay. Right. Now, this is an open question for everyone. Here you can share your own ideas. Think of a teacher who influenced you very positively. What soft skills did they demonstrate that made their teaching very effective? I need at least 3 or 4 answers from you people.
Don't mention the name of the teacher.
Yes. Give, okay, this time, but you have to give chances to others also. Yes,
There are MA students also here.
you are the bubbling teachers, would-be teachers. Yes, please. Give her the mic. You're so confident. Good.
That was not a thing in bachelor's. I did my bachelor's from here as well. So the thing was that was a thing that even if we are at some point of time lost in the syllabus or we do not know what is happening in the classroom, but then we have to prepare a PPT, so we have to go back and look at what happened and then give a whole thing of our own in the classroom. So that builds up a lot of confidence for ourselves and the teachers. I think a lot of teachers in the department do that, and it's very common in our department. So the thing is that what that does is that it not only builds confidence, but it fills a lot of gaps if we do have them. So that is the thing. And even for the teacher,
they get to know that where the students actually are, because they do not have to wait for some written exam. That is very helpful.
So technology, isn't it? Now, there is a struggle going on between technology and teacher. Fine. So what's the remedy? You are a young teacher, would-be teacher. So where do you find the solution? There is a struggle going on. There's a conflict going on between the teacher and the technology.
Some teachers like it, some teachers don't like it.
Maybe the students can be put into that process. For example, we are asked to prepare a PPT or maybe something else. So what will happen is that maybe the teachers can learn something from us. Initially, we can take some initiative as
Okay.
take classes.
Okay. One more answer, please. Yes, Anas. You are Anas, no?
So I personally do not think that there is really a conflict between teachers and technology. I think the teachers, in some way or the other, are unaware themselves about the benefits of technology that they can bring into the classroom, right? They are naturally afraid, more so in humanities classrooms, right? If you mention coding or humanities or AI, suddenly they'll say this doesn't mean English. It's not a part of literature. Okay. So I think teachers themselves require some form of training to bring into confidence with technology. And that's a baby step for both the teachers and the learners together. So I think that's the way we should proceed.
Right. That's wonderful. Now, there's another question for you people, students. Which soft skills do you need to improve? And what steps can you take to develop it? You have already heard a lecture on soft skills. Paralanguage. So, paralanguage. Okay, that's for you. For others? Lack of confidence. What should be done for that?
A class of say 30 or 40 students, none of them knows the answer. I don't think it's possible. But a possibility is that the student does not want to speak or is hesitant or reluctant in speaking. So that is, I think, one of the soft skills which students and teachers both of us should develop. In a way, the teachers should encourage communications and discussions in the classrooms, as well as the students should come out of their comfort zones and start answering in classes, even if they think that they are making them uncomfortable or they might be laughed at or anything.
Okay, so confidence building, that's important. Yes, some more answers, please. I repeat the question. Which soft skill do you need to improve and what steps can you take to develop it?
This side, except Baram Khan. I can see some GRF holders, some nets there. Can you say something?
Please come up. Yes.
Body language, non-verbal communication, like use of hands and maybe facial expressions. They can change their pitch, their tone, their intonation. What happens in a classroom is that the classroom should not be monotonous. The teaching should not be monotonous. Rather, there should be, the pitch should be high and low. There should be expressions. The eyes should also get, sometimes it should get small, it should get large, and the body language, hand movements, gestures, walking around. So this is something that, as we all saw you, and I think that all of us would agree that we are really impressed by your communication skills and non-verbal skills. So I think that this is how all of us should strive to work on, that it's not just about the communication part, but also the body language and the non-verbal communication.
Right. Fine. Now, another question is, describe a time when you or someone else faced a communication barrier in a learning environment. How was it resolved? This question is not for a teacher, but for students. Let them anticipate. Describe a time when you or someone else faced a communication barrier in a learning environment. How was it resolved? If you do not answer, we have the person to answer. I can wait for some time till the answers come from this side. Yes? Okay, please.
Sir, we were taught a nursery rhyme, a wise old owl. So owl is positive in this rhyme, basically. But everywhere in our surroundings, owl was a negative thing, stupid thing. And I, like, even after passing my high school, didn't understand why the owl was white, all throughout. And it was not clear until I myself visited Western world that I came to realize that owl is a wise thing in their literature, and as a result, um, the rhyme has been written that way. Our literature teacher did not explain the difference in the culture, and that's being conveyed in the language.
Yes.
So, this is a very big example of my life that I wanted to share with everybody. There are other examples too, but this is one of the examples.
Okay, yes, you also wanted.
First time I had this lot of problems in the past. I mean, the teacher at that time, if I said something wrong or has given some bad feedback, then it would have discouraged me further. The encouragement has given by the teacher.
Okay. Anybody from this side? Yes, please. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Another question is, yes, somebody wanted to say? You wanted to say something? No. Please, please.
So she did not know like Hindi or Urdu, but she was also not very well versed in English. So what used to happen was that whenever we had our lectures, she was unable to understand anything. So she struggled a lot. We could witness that she was struggling. And then as classmates, all of us came together and we would help her with the lectures, and we would, when the class was over, we would sit with her and would try to explain, sometimes with the non-verbal gestures, sometimes with the help of Google. And this is how we help her, like collaborative like efforts with peer, help and she was able to get better at it till the third year. So this is how she was facing in the initial years. She was facing a lot of trouble, but towards the end, she got better with it.
That's great. One last question from my side, and then you can ask me a question. How important is fluency for a teacher? Fine. How important is fluency for a teacher in the classroom?
The pace as long as you go, and if it stops when you are speaking, it creates a lot of disruption in the class. So it's better to be like it's very important to be fluent when you are doing.
Okay. Okay. So when we say fluency, three terms come into question: rate, volume, delivery, pitch. How important is rate? I mean, by rate, I mean a rate per word, per minute. How many words per minute should be the standard for a teacher to make his class malleable, enjoying, interesting?
Parallel entity. One thing in background that the teacher is prepared. He has the knowledge about the subject. But when he has or she has the knowledge about the subject, the space, the rate, the rhythm is right. It will be, I think, on the normal scale where students will be okay, they will be engaging, they will be interested, and they will understand better everything. When the preparation of the teacher, when the teacher is prepared, and these things will be normal.
I think the rate will vary between BA first year class.
Right, right, right.
So cannot follow the same rate now.
In all situations, fine. So,
So in a particular class also the rate will vary from topic to topic. So if I'm touching upon something which is easier for them, already they have an idea about it, the rate can be more than like what I'm going to be at, but I'm starting off with a new one.
okay, okay. One last question. Suppose you have been invited to deliver a talk. What would be the first question that you would ask the host or the organization that has invited you about your crowd? Audience awareness.
So accordingly, I have positions or plan my lectures so that everyone has a reason to sit and listen to.
Thank you very much. I really am overwhelmed by your responses. Now the stage is open. You can ask me.
Should I go?
Please feel free to ask. Right.
So what do you suggest? What should be an ideal?
What should be the ideal one? 130 to 140 words per minute. That's the standard one. That is a suit all environment. But especially to an advanced crowd like you people, it at least at times it goes to 160, 170 words per minute. But it varies. Fine? Yes. 120 to 130, sometimes 130 to 140. Yes. Please feel free to ask me the questions.
Class
Hmm.
where Japanese students come from different backgrounds, from state boards, and as many students mentioned that
they really struggle. They really struggle to communicate in sentence.
Right.
So what do you suggest? What approach new teachers can follow to convey whatever they're teaching or whatever?
You're talking about the word per minute?
Not word,
In general. In general, yes. Now, say for example, poetry is my first love. When I teach poetry, even it is to a BA class, though I do not get such opportunities, which I really crave for. So what I do is, I actually am very slow. I want that every word to sink in. Fine? And I want them to read. I want them to recite. And I say, I'll not tell you the meaning of the poem. I'll simply recite the poem. And you have to tell me, what did you get? Because, I believe poetry can't be taught. It can be felt, isn't it? The way the teacher has his or her grasp over the words. The meaning lies in the way Anas throws in, isn't it? Today's example is Anas, fine? So I'm really overwhelmed to see him speaking like that. So as a teacher, when you use a particular word, the meaning should already be amply clear. But of course, when you're teaching a higher class, then naturally you should refer to, take ways to allusions, to references, and that will make the class so interesting, fine? Everyone will actually see to it that he or she comes to the class quite often. For example, once they gave me Tughlaq to teach, Girish Karnat. I was thinking how to teach Tughlaq. These technical guys, they have an elective course like modern drama. I decided I should not teach them. I said, you become Tughlaq. You become Barani. You become the washerman. And you become something else. And then I told him that when you become Tughlaq, think like Tughlaq. Fine? Come, my masses. Right? So what happens is they actually visualize themselves. And even if they err, no, as a teacher, I have to forgive them. And then I have to recite it, or I have to speak it. Throughout the semester, I only got only 1 month when the entire classroom had enacted their roles. Some of them were hesitant, as he says, they were not ready to take the roles. Then I started asking them the questions, what did you learn? And ultimately, I didn't teach them the entire drama. Rather, I simply took the important passages and I delivered. And the course was so wonderful. Sometimes people used to sit at the windowsills because the maximum count was only 40. They had only 40 vacancies. So students would come. And the next year, it became so popular that we had to admit more students in that course. So this is how, as a teacher, you also should try to improvise stepwise, because a teacher never becomes in one day. Fine? The burning example is before you, isn't it? Day by day, we are improving, day by day. And the thirst of knowledge doesn't end. We want to accumulate something more, fine? When we listen to somebody else, we try to inculcate him, her, and that is how the world goes on. And sometimes, as compliments, when after years some students come to you and say that, sir, I still recall that class, you actually feel that nothing materialistic can give you the reward that he or she has given it. That is the beauty of teaching. Am I right? Thank you. Yes, you can ask some more questions. Please, please, please.
So generally in South Asia, Indo-Pak especially, at the school level we teach British English, whereas after the NLCs have come, during the interviews and for job placement, American English is encouraged. People are debating whether it should be British English taught in school or we should come down to American. What is your take on it?
I believe Indian English, isn't it? Because, Indians are better speaker. They are better speaker. You see, you have already mentioned your own problem. How you have emerged as an effective communicator now. You communicate better. At times you feel when we're talking to an American or to a British, there are many things which are not clear. But they also admire the way we speak. Because when we speak with a meaning. And meaning is very important. So I believe, and the recruiters, honestly telling, they always say that they are not very much fascinated by those artificial tones and tenors. They actually want to know where the substance lies. If the substance is in the candidate, that's the right choice, isn't it? Of course, when you go to a different country, naturally your intonation and other things will change because of the climatic conditions as well, isn't it? Fine? Thank you. Yes, please. Please give him the mic.
Or when we watch videos, we encounter a particular kind of problem that there is a particular model in which we try to fit the learners. And when we learn those skills, we become actually same. So we lose our unique individuality that actually attracts the people. So here the problem lies at. For example, when we read a particular novel, there is a style to it. For example, Tolstoy and Fyodor Dostoevsky and Somerset Maugham. So while we are reading different writers, we are reading because there is a particular style to it. Their language, their theme, their tone, and their mood. But when we watch videos or the books on self-improvement or the soft training, there is a particular model, and we try to fit every learners into it. And here the problem is.
I don't think that's the problem. Because, I always tell people, be yourself, isn't it? Your voice is your own identity. The only thing is that you have to display correctness, commitment, sincerity, fine, clarity, fine. It is not that by learning softer skills or whatsoever, you completely change yourself. Your voice remains yours. Only you learn certain skills, isn't it? Fine. They simply tell you the models, but can you really become that? You do not become that because your real identity remains with you. And please don't lose that identity. Otherwise, now, as you said, we read Tolstoy, we read some other authors, Chekhov, Picasso, whatsoever. But why most of us like R.K. Narayan, isn't it? Because of the simplicity. Because the way he has explained things or the way he writes is understood by everyone, isn't it? So language should be such that could be understood by everyone. We should not go for such a language which actually make others puzzle, bewilder, wonder. Let us try to see that correctness is the hallmark. Fine. Even if we try our level best, we cannot imitate or we cannot become the way the Americans speak because that's the result of the climate that they are in. Fine. They also face the same problem when they come to our part, isn't it? So you have to maintain your own voice, your own identity, but see to it that you learn the skills. Is it okay? No, you are not happy. I want you to be happy. I've not been able to answer your question actually, isn't it? Please. Okay. Or have I not been able to understand what you really wanted to say? Fine. Any other question?
Okay. So I will sum it up.
Please do, because I can see the clouds of fatigue on their faces as a reader of their non-verbal behavior. So please bring the showers so that the evening becomes beautiful for them.
Thank you very much. Please sit down. Uh, I would like to sum it up. So the first, thank you. We discussed. There were 4 lectures in total. We have 4 hours each day, and 2 hours was by Ilva and 2 hours by Vinod Mishra. Since it is the first day, so we had some. They actually started the discussion, and you would have realized that they were talking of topics which are not so difficult at a beginner level. So, but the questions that they raised during the session, like who am I, for example, who are you? This was the first slide, and then there were some questions related to that. Those questions we need to understand, because the topic for today is culturally empowering teacher training through language and literature. And this topic directly related to teachers, and we often talk of teacher training, but we don't think of training the students. Okay. So here, that is the purpose of Dhyan, that we promote, we give permission to BA students also, MA students also, teachers also, research scholars also, so that we could enlighten them with some basic questions. So we need to, the questions that they have raised, like in the handout, you take half an hour for that. And just because when we asked some questions, when he asked some questions, which was, we can call it your weaknesses, and what do you want to improve upon? For example, that question was there. Nobody spoke on that. Okay, so because that was referring to the weaknesses of us. So it's important to think of the weaknesses as a teacher, as a student, as a BA student, whatever. Because if you want to improve, you need to improve those weaknesses. That is very important aspect. Okay. So I would like to inform you. I would like to share one message, one email or message long back I got from a student, MA student. He wrote that it was a long message, and in the beginning I was stressed because the first sentence was very, that troubled me. That he said that when I came to your first class, you asked me questions. This was his first statement in the message. So I thought that he's going to curse me. But then he said that then in another class, again you asked me this to speak in the class. And then she said that she was not ready to speak in the class. So that was, sorry, he was not ready to speak in the class. But I make students speak in the class. So she was appreciating that. And he said that, it was very good for me because I did not think of speaking in the class. So that is a positive aspect in that student. He looked at his weaknesses, and just because I asked repeatedly, generally I ask in my class, generally I engage most of the students, say something like that. So that was my habit. So that helped that student improve himself as a student. So improving the weaknesses is very important. So like the question was, who am I? Or who are you? We need to understand that. We need to understand our strength and weaknesses. Focus on weaknesses, because there is no training for students. There is teacher training, but there is no course on student training. We talk of changing, the teaching style and methodology and procedure and all that related to teachers. So some place I read that, you need to unlearn something and then learn again. So that is the process that we should follow. And that is okay for teachers also and for the students also. That will make you a better teacher in future. So that is very important. There is another thing. He was referring to some flow chart, and he was talking of engaging information from your colleagues or something like that. So that is also very important. If you have something, if your colleague is good at something, okay, so you can apply that in the class. Maybe he's your enemy. Yeah, I'm saying it. Because if there is something good, that's good. So adaptability, that something like that, right, you talked of. So you need to adapt something, adopt and adapt something. You should not do that, no, I don't like that person, so therefore I'm not going to use that. So it should not be like that. Okay, so be positive and let the world say whatever they want to say. Okay, should not think of that. अगर आपको बड़ा इंसान बनना है तो आपको छोटी छोटी बातों को इग्नोर करना होगा, है नहीं? So this is there for everything, for as a teacher also, as a human being also. Okay, so one Imtiaz asked the question that soft skill, the design for soft skill is structured, but his reading of great masters, for example, Dostoevsky and Tolstoy and all that, they are open. So for that, I just want to say one thing, that this I talk in my class also, that when the British came, they did two things in education system. When they introduced English education system, they changed two things. One, medium instruction. English now. Finished. English, I mean, Arabic, Persian, everything was finished. English. Okay? But they needed material to be taught. What was there? In literature. Literature. So they introduced literature not to enlighten the colonies, but to develop a group of people who are Indian in blood and they are British in, you know that, Macaulays. Okay. So today, what I say, that the purpose of education is making independent learners. Independent learners. Not giving knowledge. Okay, knowledge is everywhere on your mobile. Anything you want, it's there. Anything about Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, about the text mother, anything and everything is there. You can always browse it on your mobile. So that is not the purpose. The purpose is to be an independent learner. In the class, they cannot teach the whole literature. Only some specific literature is prescribed. So you need to, as a teacher, you need to teach the class so that, I mean, if you remove one novel, for example, you taught King Lear in the class. So don't teach King Lear only. Teach them how to read drama. Because here in AMU, King Lear is there. But in another university, Hamlet is there. And you are appointed there. You have not read Hamlet. So if you are an independent learner, you will be explaining that. So what is important is that the purpose of teaching is to train students to become independent learners. Have you heard of that proverb? If you give fish, that is sufficient for one time. But if you teach fishing, that is sufficient for the whole life. So teach fishing. Okay. So that is the purpose of teaching. But for that, students also need to unlearn and learn again.